Hey y'all, today we are reviewing episode 3 of Miss Marvel, and I just continue to love this show. I love getting to spend every Wednesday night when I get home from work watching whatever Kamala is up to and just seeing the hijinks that she's gotten herself in. And in this episode, she's gotten herself in some pretty serious hijinks that we're going to talk about today, including the reveal of the villain of this show, which I definitely clickbaited last week with my thumbnail, I'm sorry. The lady that she was seeing in her visions, I was like, she's not just gonna be a good lady. I knew it. I predicted it. Anyways, let's get into this week's review of this episode. This episode specifically did a fantastic job with two things: the action and the Easter eggs, okay? And let me explain why. The Easter egg links in this show to the rest of the MCU and to other Marvel properties is like unparalleled in Phase 4 history, in my opinion. There's movies that like barely reference this side of the MCU, i.e. Moon Knight, and then there are sides that say it so overtly, like Eternals, that it's kind of like it doesn't even feel like a reference because it's so opaque, like what they're talking about. Yet here we have stuff for eagle-eyed or eagle-eared listeners, viewers, watchers, audience member, including in the opening shot, we see the Jinn, who are in 1940s English-occupied India, and they're standing on the 10 rings, which is just shows that some shady stuff is gonna go down in the rest of the episode, okay? If you saw that, because I freaked out, paused the TV, went back to the full, like Leonardo DiCaprio thing, like I freaked out when I saw this, because I did a lot of research prior to Shang-Chi about the 10 rings, the Mandarin, and kind of what that character's history is. And the Mandarin supposedly got his powers from these mysterious 10 rings that came in an alien ship and like landed in Earth. And while that obviously isn't necessarily the direction fully that they went with in Shang-Chi, it could be the direction that they're going with Kamala's bangles. And so my theory, because we're jumping ahead in this episode because I didn't think I was going to have any theories, but I do. My theory is that those bangles are going to somehow be from an alien race. They talk about the Noor and the interdimensional travel and all that kind of stuff, but I feel like that's kind of where Captain Marvel is going to want to get involved, is it's this like intergalactic, interdimensional issue that has now, this power has now been unlocked by this young Earth girl. And I don't know, that's really exciting. So I just love that reference. And then later, Bruno and Kamala are talking about interdimensional travel. They reference Dr. Eric Selvig in a paper that they read about opening doors to other universes. And that was just, again, doesn't elaborate, like, oh, didn't he know Thor? Like, they leave it in there, and if you know, you know, and if you are not paying attention, it doesn't affect you. Like, it just isn't that important. And I love that, because to me, that's very much original MCU referencing of itself and kind of connecting the worlds in this very casual way, but if you're paying attention, you're like, oh my gosh, the thought that went into this is so great. And that's just how I feel overall about Miss Marvel thus far, is that so much thought has been put into the series. Like, it is so well planned, so well executed, and just so much thought and care has been put into it. And I feel like that's something that is so important about this show, and something that I personally have felt that's been sort of lacking from the MCU for just a little bit of time. This to me just felt so classic, and I loved that. And then the action. I really loved the scene with the Bon Jovi song. I'm pretty sure it was Bon Jovi, because I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a joke about Brown Jovi, the band that's playing at their wedding. I think they played that while Kamala is fighting the Jinn in the kitchen. Killer. Loved that. I love a good action sequence paired with a great song, and it was so good, and I loved it. And it didn't last too long. It was just perfect, and I really liked that. I also think this episode, I really noticed what the show is doing to make you simultaneously feel in Kamala's shoes while also kind of creating tension for you as a viewer outside of the story world. And that's the way that the show has made you care about each and every character in Kamala's life, from Nakia to her father to Bruno. They all have a different relationship with Kamala, and they all have slightly different pieces of information. Like, even Bruno kind of has different pieces of information from Kamala, because her relationship with Cameron, he's not going to know about necessarily, and all that kind of stuff. That's just really creating tension for the viewer, because you simultaneously want Kamala to succeed because you understand she's being a superhero and she's trying to do good, but at the same time she's hiding from people she loves who you also feel for. And that tension of kind of caring about different sides of characters is something that, again, I don't feel like the MCU has done effectively for me personally in a long time, and they're really accomplishing that well in this show. My one I guess my issue with this show, which is probably going to be my issue going forward, is that this series kind of got turned on its head this episode. And while I like the way they did it, they didn't like feel like you're building up to something and building up for something and save it until the penultimate episode to reveal this. I feel like there was way too quick of a reveal of who the villain was, and kind of this massive uptick and what the stakes of this show are. It went from being like a kid trying to keep their superhero and their secret identity kind of separate. I don't like the massive uptick in intergalactic, interdimensional stakes that this has. Obviously, Kamala's powers are not necessarily science-y based like a lot of other Avengers are. However, there's an element to it that felt kind of natural and like mysterious that we could figure out in future seasons of this show, in future movies and that sort of thing. And I just don't love the fact that all of a sudden like we're back on a intergalactic scale, cosmic level threat for this show. I just hope that it can kind of be dealt with in a little bit more of a closed off way, and or pull in Captain Marvel in a much more natural way. I still want her to be a normal Jersey City teenager after this. Does that make sense? I want that feeling that Spider-Man has. He can go into space, he can fight Thanos, but at the end of the day, he can come back home and still fight like Spider-Man villains. That's what I want for Miss Marvel, and I just hope that this show continues to go in that direction. However, I do want to put it out there on the table that I do feel pretty confident with having 3 episodes of this series left. Like, I feel like what needs to be accomplished can be accomplished, so long as next episode doesn't add a whole ton of like unnecessary complications. And I feel like I can see, without knowing exactly what's going to happen, how the rest of the series plays out and not feel like it's super rushed, which is kind of the first time I'm feeling that way with a 6-episode Marvel show. But what do you think? Are you liking Miss Marvel? Did this week's episode hit home for you, or did you not really like it? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, be sure to like this video and hit subscribe so you don't miss my future Miss Marvel reviews, as well as additional movie and television reviews that I make for this channel. Thank you all so much for watching this review. I so appreciate you. I hope you have an absolutely amazing day, and I will see you in my very next video. Bye, y'all.